So with free agency just around the corner, legal tampering period starting next week, we're going to round out this series on this channel, going over free agents at particular positions that the Packers should look into when free agency starts. We already did safety, we did linebacker, defensive line, and also cornerback. For today's final episode, we're going to be looking at running backs that the Packers could be looking at when free agency starts next week. Now, let me start this off by saying I 100% believe that the Packers are going to draft a running back. It seems likely that A.J. Dillon is on his way out unless brought back for a very cheap amount of money. I do believe the Packers will attack adding depth to that running back room through the draft, but I think they could do both. I think the Packers could go and get another running back in free agency that has some experience in the NFL to pair with Aaron Jones, because we know how the Green Bay Packers like to kind of split up carries, keep both running backs fresh, and who knows if a rookie in the 4th, 5th, maybe even 6th round could do that right off the gate, or could pass protect well like the Packers like. Gutekunst has gone on record that he likes to have a bruiser type of running back for later months in the season. Pretty much what A.J. Dillon is, and there still is a chance A.J. Dillon could be brought back. But today we're going to be looking at 4 running back options that I could see fit for the Green Bay Packers in terms of monetary value and just a fit and overall scheme for this offense to pair with Aaron Jones. Again, free agency is right around the corner, and the Packers are going to have some money to play around with. Now, obviously, safety and nickel cornerback is a much bigger need, and if the Packers were to spend some money, I would rather it be at those 2 positions. But running back, you can get some high quality running backs in free agency for pretty cheap. Like I said, I think the Packers probably add multiple guys into that running back room. Of course, go down and click that subscribe button if you haven't already to stay up to date with everything Green Bay Packers through the start of free agency and of course the draft as well. Everything Green Bay Packers right here on this channel. Go down and click subscribe if you are interested. All right, so I first wanted to mention that running backs such as Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, because I'm sure there'll be a couple comments saying the Packers should go after those guys, right? Now Derrick Henry is an impending free agent, and although I do see a great fit with him with this Packers offense, Matt LaFleur was the offensive coordinator there when Derrick Henry had some of his best seasons. They're too expensive. So bringing up the screen here, Derrick Henry, his average annual salary estimation is at $10.3 million per year, and Saquon Barkley is at $9.9 million per year. Aaron Jones is set to have a $17 million cap hit. Now, that is going to change, and there's been reports going around that they're asking for another pay cut, and pretty much they might do an extension, which is essentially going to be a pay cut, and it's going to change. At the end of the day, it's going to change. But I don't see the Packers, say, lowering Aaron Jones' cap hit, even if they lowered a significant amount, maybe to even $10 to $12 million, adding another running back at $10 million. Then that just puts your total running back pay or cap hit at over $20 million, which is the situation they're trying to avoid right now with Aaron Jones at a $17 million cap hit. So as much as it would be fun to add a Saquon Barkley and a Derrick Henry to this offense with Aaron Jones, I find it very, very unlikely. Unless these numbers are completely wrong and Derrick Henry signs with a team for $6 to $7 million annually, which won't happen. Yeah, unlikely for me. All right, so let's get this thing started. This is in no particular order, and for the first running back that I could see the Packers looking at in this free agency is Zach Moss, most recently with the Indianapolis Colts, a former 3rd-round draft selection to the Buffalo Bills, still only 26 years old, and coming off a very strong season with the Colts. Kind of came right onto the scene after Jonathan Taylor got hurt and played very well. Looking at his attempts here, 184 attempts for 793 yards, a 4.3 average, and 5 total touchdowns. In terms of his PFF grades, which to me, I don't look at PFF grades too much in terms of running backs. They don't mean too much to me in my eyes. But yards after contact, he had 514 yards after contact, so really good at getting out of tackles, 2.79 yards after contact per attempt. Moss was also a pretty explosive runner last year. He had 19 total carries of 10 plus yards and a breakaway percentage of 25.5%. Now, Moss was also used in the receiving game a decent bit. He had 27 receptions on 35 targets for 192 yards. And right now, Moss's estimated average annual market value is at $4.6 million. Again, the market for running back has just really died down over the last decade, and sometimes you can get very solid, capable running backs. You know, Zach Moss still only 26 years old for under $5 million annually, and Zach Moss is a starting, capable running back, and I think the Packers want to add another guy like that with Aaron Jones. As much as we all want to see Aaron Jones all game, every game, you know, he is on that back half of his career where running backs start to degrade, so you're going to need another guy that can go in and spell Aaron Jones Jones when he needs a breather. And again, I think they're going to do that in the draft, but could also add someone like Zach Moss and just create a really, stacked backfield. Before we dive into the next 3 free agent running backs, I want to give a shout out to today's video sponsor. Of course, that is Sleeper. And right now, with the link down in the description and using code BASS when signing up for Sleeper, you can get a first deposit match up to $500. Again, that link is down in the description, or you can scan the QR code on the screen, use code BASS, and you'll get an instant first deposit match up to $500. On Sleeper, you can win up to 100x payouts. You can place in-game contests. There are tons of stat categories to place contests on, such as points, rebounds, double-doubles, first quarter points, blocks plus steals, and more. Entries can be made in 30 seconds or less. It's that easy. It's a very clean and easy to use app. Just to show you guys how easy it is to make a contest and how cool it is for a first new user as well, they also offer a bonus pick to new users. As you can see here, Kevin Durant more than 0.5 points tonight in their game against the Nuggets, so essentially a free pick there. Then scrolling through the rest of the game, as you can see, there's plenty of different other stats to choose from to make out your contest. So right now with my 4 picks here, $20 would be a 12.96 multiplier, turning into $259.20. And again, you can add more picks up to 100xing your money. Also, guys, I'm starting a new giveaway. Thank you to Sleeper this month. I'm going to be giving away this signed Christian Watson Packers jersey here, this home Packers jersey signed by Christian Watson, and it's very easy to enter. Go down, click the link, sign up for Sleeper, use code BASS, and make a first-time deposit. That deposit, of course, will also be matched, and you'll be entered in this giveaway. The winner will be announced at the end of March. Again, thank you to Sleeper for sponsoring today's video. All right, so now let's continue into the 3 remaining free agent running backs I see fit for the Green Bay Packers. Next on this list is Antonio Gibson, most recently with the Washington Commanders, a 3rd-round draft selection in that 2020 draft. Really has been benched under Brian Robinson as of late, and I think he does fit that mold that Brian Gutekunst has been talking about. 6'2", 220 pounds, kind of that bigger type of back. He's still only 25 years old. Last year, very underutilized. I feel like he didn't get many, attempts here. Only 65 attempts, 265 yards, but still averaged 4.1 per carry and had 1 touchdown. Now, one problem with Antonio Gibson is he has had a fumbling issue. Last year, he had 4 fumbles in those 65 attempts, so something he definitely needs to clean up. It's definitely a problem. Obviously, we don't want a running back in the later half of the season, in the cold months, fumbling the football. Gibson had 5 runs of 10+ yards, a breakaway percentage of 6.0%. If we look over his seasons, the 4 years he's been in the NFL, Gibson was once a 1,000-yard rusher in 2021, and even his rookie year, 826 yards. And it's really going downhill since then, really underutilized. You can see his attempts go from 258 to 149 in 2022, and then down to 65 last year. So Gibson definitely on his way out of Washington, and I think would be a very cheap, viable backup option for the Green Bay Packers. Right now, his estimated average annual salary is at $3.6 million. I honestly don't even think he'll get that much. I think it'll be more so around that $2.5 to $3 million mark. Again, a very cheap, viable option for the Packers in terms of a depth running back option. Next on this list is another former Buffalo Bill running back draft pick, and that is Devin Singletary, most recently with the Houston Texans, a former 3rd-round pick just like Zach Moss to the Buffalo Bills, but Singletary from 2019. Now, he's a smaller back, 5'7", 203, but definitely runs bigger than that. He's still only 26 years old. He'll be 27 at the start of the 2024 NFL season, and he was almost a 1,000-yard rusher last year, taking over for Dameon Pierce in that Texans offense. He had 238 attempts for 986 yards, a 4.1 average, 5 touchdowns, and only 1 fumble. If we look, he had 26 runs of 10+ yards and a breakaway percentage of 25.7%, so higher than Zach Moss. So both of these former Buffalo Bill running backs, high breakaway percentage type of runs. He also had 686 out of his 986 yards after contact. So again, a smaller running back, but can definitely break some tackles, make people miss. A very high 2.88 yards after contact per attempt. So every time he gets the ball, he's gaining an additional 2 to 3 yards after he's first contacted, which is something the Packers obviously look for in a backup running back. just similar to the A.J. Dillon. You can hand the ball up the middle on 3rd and short, and he's going to gain an additional 2 to 3 yards on every carry after contact. Singletary's been a very solid and consistent running back over the years. We see since 2019, right around that 800 to 900 yard mark every single season. 833 in 2019, 750 in 2020, 977 in 2021, 892 in 2022, 986 in 2023. So he's gotten so close to cracking 1,000 yards. And over the years, man, 4.5 yards per attempt. He's very solid in terms of yards per attempt as well. And an average over those 5 years of 3 yards after contact per attempt, which is extremely high, as I mentioned before. And also averaging 29.9% breakaway percentage over those 5 years. So again, he's been a very consistent, viable option at running back for 5 years straight. Both of these former Buffalo Bill draft pick running backs are definitely my favorite options out of this list today. Devin Singletary's average annual salary estimations at $5.3 million. So again, very affordable for a young, viable option at running back. As I said, only 26 years old, and would be a nice duo to have. Aaron Jones, Devin Singletary, or Zach Moss to kind of rotate around, and then also maybe a draft pick in those middle rounds. There's plenty of different options in the draft that the Packers very well could make a selection on, such as Jonathan Brooks, Jalen Wright, who I just released a video on yesterday. We have Blake Corum, Bucky Irving, Ray Davis, Marshawn Lloyd, Audric Estime, who I really like as well out of Notre Dame, Trey Benson, Braylon Allen. Of course, a lot of people like Braylon Allen. I think he fits that mold, being 6'2", 245 pounds. You also have Will Shipley, Isaac Garendo, who just had an awesome combine. There's a ton of different options at running back. And like I said, I'm not saying the Packers should go out and sign a free agent and just leave it at that. They should maybe get a free agent such as Singletary or Moss, and then also draft someone as well. Final running back on the list is someone that would be, kind of a fun one, and that is DeAndre Swift, most recently with the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, that 2nd round draft selection in 2020 to the Detroit Lions, and he's coming off a very solid, underrated type of season with the Eagles. He had 239 attempts for 1,083 yards and 5 touchdowns. He had 582 yards after contact, so over half of his total yards after contact, and also a pretty high 2.44 yards after contact per attempt. He had 23 rushes of 10 plus yards, and a breakaway run percentage, the highest of today, 26.9%. He was also used a ton in the receiving game. He was targeted 51 times, had 43 receptions for 246 yards. So although I see Swift going to a team and being the #1 running back, maybe even the Eagles re-sign him, because like I said, I thought he had a really nice season last year, definitely his best season of his career. I mean, we look at his career over the years, never really topped 700 yards with Detroit, then goes to the Eagles and is a 1,000-yard rusher. So the Eagles very well could bring him back, but he's another option that's actually not that expensive considering, all the other running backs on the market, such as Barkley, Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry. DeAndre Swift, I think this is great value for him. A $6.7 million average annual salary. I think if you get that down to about $6 million, I mean, just imagine the duo of Aaron Jones and DeAndre Swift in this backfield and what Matt LaFleur would be able to do with both of these running backs. DeAndre Swift is still only 25 years old, so a ton of gas left in the tank, and I think it would be a very interesting option. Again, these are the 4 running backs that I see most likely that, hey, the Packers might be looking at these guys, and they're not too expensive, they're still kind of young, and would complement Aaron Jones well. I really do like the Buffalo guys, the former Buffalo draft picks with Zach Moss, Devin Singletary. DeAndre Swift is kind of one where it's like, oh, that would be cool, but he'll probably get priced out where it's like, okay, the Packers aren't willing to pay that much for a rotational running back, right? Antonio Gibson, although it had some rough years so far in the NFL with Washington, 1,000-yard season, but the past 2 years have been pretty rough for him. I think it would be a very cheap, very low risk, medium high reward in terms of a guy you could bring into this team for very cheap with not much guarantees, and maybe he turns into a solid rotational running back. But these are my 4 guys at running back that I think the Packers could be looking at in the free agency. Again, draft is my route that the Packers are going to go, but again, they could maybe add someone as well. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Out of these 4, which would you most want to see in the green and gold? And also, if there's other free agents that I didn't mention today that aren't named Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, and Saquon Barkley, let me know down in the comments below. But I appreciate you guys coming by to the video. If you could, please leave a like down below. It supports the channel a ton. Thank you guys all for the endless support through this awesome 2024 Packers offseason. I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.